Hello and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Last time, we awkwardly went into Hanako's room and she touched our naked chest, and then we didn't talk about that ever again. And then we went to the city, we met up with Hanako and we got her a gift. And now we're at school. And I don't know what's gonna happen. Finally reaching the classroom after the usual walk from the dormitories, I step inside. My eyes immediately turn to the third seat from the left in the back row. Hanako's seat. It's empty, and after glancing around the classroom, it looks like she isn't here yet. The two girls from the newspaper club are here in the two seats to the left of Hanako's, as are Shizune and Misha, but that's about it. We exchange morning greetings before I take my seat. I have to admit that this is a bit of a relief. This gives me at least a few more minutes to think. Not that I haven't been doing so previously. Ever since our trip to town, Hanako's been on my mind. It's 'cause you like her. I still don't know what to make of my relationship with Hanako. I like her, I can admit that much to myself. I want to protect and shield her from the pain she feels. I really don't think my feelings are just those of friendship anymore. But that said, I feel like I don't even know her. If I made a move on her, how would she take it? Is she in an emotional state that allows her to make a reasonable decision about a relationship? How would she cope with anything that might happen afterwards? I don't know, but she seemed to be pretty chill with you just being like, hey, I'm gonna be shirtless for a second. Do you mind? There's also the possibility that I'm just completely misinterpreting Hanako. Not a difficult thing to do with someone whose social skills seem to be so underdeveloped. The sound of footsteps comes up to the door, making me perk up. It's Miki! What do you mean it just ends up being Miki? We should be happy that it's Miki, because Miki is great. She barely acknowledges my existence when I accidentally make eye contact with her. I'm about to look away, but another person comes in not long after she takes her seat. I feel myself freeze as I see Hanako enter. This isn't a rational reaction, but I have no idea about how I should act or what I should say to her. You are really awkward for no reason? Like, you went to town and it was fine. You were less awkward about literally taking your shirt off in her room alone. For a moment our eyes meet. And then just as quickly she looks away and moves to her seat without saying a single word. Okay. As is now usual for the period following classes, my face is buried deep in a book that I find thoroughly uninteresting. You mean a textbook? Textbooks don't tend to be interesting, so I don't know what to tell you. Studying is not something that comes naturally to me. I didn't study a lot before coming to Yamaku, and until now I've largely managed to coast through on talent alone. It's frustrating that I can't do that anymore. Judging by the faces of the other few students in the library, I don't think I'm alone in my distaste for this. Misery loves company, I suppose. I decided to spend lunchtime with Hanako since we haven't had lunch together for a while now. I may as well have spent the time studying, though. Aside from pathetically small snippets of small talk, there was barely a word said between us. Why does she keep doing this to me? I just want to protect her, to be there for her, but every time I feel like we're coming closer, we end up further away. Are you busy? Hanako! My head whips around in surprise, causing her to retreat in fright. That was bad timing. If I hadn't been thinking about her at that very moment, I probably wouldn't have been nearly so startled. Sorry, you just startled me. I find myself staring at her longer than I should, so I go back to the text lying on the table in front of me. I feel more like I'm just staring at the words rather than actually reading. I get the feeling Hanako can notice this as well, so I sigh and close the book. What's up? I was just wondering what you were reading. She looks a little downcast after my reaction to seeing her. Giving up on the prospect of getting any more work done, I get up and return the book to its place on a nearby shelf. Just an English textbook. Has it helped? It helped me realize that I don't like English, yeah. Hanako gives a small giggle. I may muse on the strange state of our friendship, but I do know that such little gestures are things that I wouldn't see were I not at least some distance closer to her than when we first met. I look at her for a moment, thinking about what I do and don't know about her. It's a slightly depressing topic. Is something wrong? If I want to know more about her, maybe I should stop being so evasive about it. Talking with Lily as an equal rather than being constantly in fear of causing her to become upset worked fine. So I should just try a straightforward approach with Hanako as well. Hey, Hanako, do you mind if I ask you a question? I don't mind. I want to know what your life was like, your life before coming to Yamaku. She hesitates. I briefly consider backing off, but she seems to be taking the question quite seriously. I sit and watch her, silently letting her take her time. She's not making eye contact with me and looks almost as if she's arguing with herself into letting herself open up to me more. Her answer finally comes in, stiff, almost reluctant and odd. She looks far more tense than she did before I'd asked. Okay, but in return, you have to tell me about your life as well. I nod and follow her as she begins to walk out the library so we can talk. By now, most of the students have already left the main building, so apart from a few people hovering around club rooms, the hallways are largely empty. I guess we'll start with coming to Yamaku. Let's see, I was in the hospital with when my parents first told me about Yamaku Academy. The doctors told me I shouldn't go to my old school anymore. My parents agreed and persuaded me to apply for Yamaku, even though it would mean living away from them for the first time. It must have been hard for you. Well, yeah, I have to admit that it was. My parents both work long hours and full time, so having to live reasonably independently wasn't anything new for me. It was the fact that I was going to a school for disabled students that hit hardest, I think. And you? A small group of chatting girls passes us as we near the stairs, with Hanako pressing herself tightly to my side until we reach the ground floor. She doesn't usually come this close while just walking in the school, so I'm left a little put off. The staff at the orphanage offered me some options on what I could do. Middle school hadn't been good, so I thought that Yamaku might be better. It was isolated, and I thought it might be easier to get by here, with most of the others being disabled. It's pretty ironic that the reasons Hanako looked forward to Yamaku are the exact reasons I hated the idea. To me, it felt like I was being shunted somewhere away from society and everyone I knew. To Hanako, that was probably an inviting prospect. What was life like at the orphanage? It was okay. The staff there were nice, and they took care of us. The children there didn't talk to me much, but I didn't really want to talk to them either, so I didn't mind. The orphanage had a little library, so I started to read to pass the time. Staff didn't mind it because it made me easier to handle than many of the other children. You didn't make any friends there? No, I think my life was on hold during that time. I knew that, but I didn't mind. To think her life was on hold for all that time, though. Depending on when the fire happened, that was a huge chunk of her life. No parents, no friends, apparently no relatives. I walked through the doors into the courtyard. I expect to need to avert my eyes from the sun, but by now it's well into sunset. Hanako's eyes keep flicking to me, so I look away from her for a bit. What was it like in the hospital? I quickly clear my thoughts and try to refocus them. I hesitate for a bit, but I know that I have to tell her. We're close enough for her to feel comfortable telling me this, so it's only fair that I reciprocate. It was okay at times, but at others it was pretty bad. At the beginning, everyone sent their sympathies and came to visit often. It was just like breaking an arm or something. Meeting all my friends was one of the good times. Iwanaka came in often as well, more often than anyone else. But there were bad times too, when my friends slowly stopped visiting. I began to realize how grave my situation was. It reminded me that this wasn't just a broken limb, but that I was now a different person than before. Even the times Iwanaka would spend with me became torturous. By the end, we were reduced to silence, whereas before she'd be talking constantly. But that's how Iwanaka always was. She may have been a fragile person, but she would talk constantly to try to hide that fact. Not about anything in particular, just talk. I think the 3 lowest points would have been when my parents told me I wouldn't be going to my old school anymore, my birthday passing while I was in the hospital, and when Iwanaka left for the last time. We leave the school buildings behind us as we begin to follow the main path through the gardens. There may have been the odd bystander in the school buildings, but outside we're practically alone. What was your middle school like? I liked it. I grew up in a really metropolitan area and the middle school was nearby, so it was pretty crowded. I didn't mind it, probably because I'm used to being in crowds and around lots of other people. I got good grades and I played soccer with my friends. I spent a fair amount of time hanging out with them after school as well. Did get teased a bit over my hair though. Your hair? I grimaced a little as I put my hand over my hair to cover it. I'd keep getting tufts and strands that refused to flatten or stay where I wanted them, and my mother wouldn't let me get my hair shaved. It had a habit of popping out no matter how much I tried to brush it down. It still does a little. I was worried I'd get that reply. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I give a mild laugh and wave it off. It's fine, I know it still does. It feels strange to have someone act so interested in my past. If it were anyone else, I'd think they were just acting polite, but that's something I really don't think Hanako would do. Or if she did, she'd do it so badly that it would be obvious. There are a number of girls in the common room on the ground floor, and Hanako presses herself to my side once more as we pass them. I expect her to break off, but instead she continues to cling on to me as we walk towards the stairway. Something about the way she's holding on to me feels different from the usual. I'm left deep in thought as we walk up the stairs and down the hallway. It's only when we stop that I look up and realize I've been following her without question. Why did we come to your dormitory room? She looks straight at the door without so much as a glance in my direction. Hanako? She moves to answer but stops herself. Instead, she silently breaks from my side, opens her door, and steps inside. I look up and down the hallway, a bit lost as to exactly what I should do. Shrugging, I decide to follow her since I don't have any reason to do otherwise. Hanako stands in the middle of her room and looks straight at me. It's unnerving when she does this. It's such an unusual action for her. I open my mouth to speak, but she preempts me. Could you close and lock the door? Hanako? No. No. I won't do it. Hanako's hand reaches for her chest, grabbing her blouse at her heart. Is she gonna get naked? You better keep your clothes on. I'm calling the police. I turn and lock the door shut, then freeze. The atmosphere is beginning to feel quite strange. This feeling is only made more profound when I hear the curtains being pulled behind me. Uh-oh. She's gonna kill you. This isn't a sexual thing. She's about to murder you. That's why she's taking her clothes off so that they don't get blood on them. It's going to be night soon. We're a guy and a girl in a bedroom. She's closing the curtains and I'm shutting and locking the door. She can't really have that in mind. Can she? Yeah, she is going to kill you. I gulp and turn around very, very slowly. Hanako is in the center of the room but hasn't turned back to face me. You told me about your past, so I have to tell you mine. She takes a deep shuddering breath and pauses for a number of seconds. Her hands move to her ribbon and begin to tug, all but confirming my thoughts. Hanako? Please don't say anything. I obediently stay hushed as she slips off her ribbon and continues to unbutton her blouse before working the clip of her bra. The process is slow. Perhaps it just feels slow because of what she's doing. I'm not sure. Frozen to the spot, all I can do is watch as Hanako, hands trembling, unclips her skirt and lets it drop to the ground. Why are you doing this? Why are you, you didn't have to get completely naked to show me all of your scars, ma'am. You know, I pretty much would have known they were there if you kept on your bra. You didn't need to take it off unless you're, I mean, I guess it's your room. You can be naked if you want. I want to leave. Can I leave? Finally, she takes her blouse in her hands and draws it off, her bra falling from her shoulders, and so Hanako stands in the middle of the room, all but bared, save for her stockings and underwear. I thought she closed the curtain. There's clearly a crack there. Someone's got peep on you. This is me. All of me. Why do we have to close in on her butt? My eyes are immediately drawn to the scarring on her back. The skin on her right side is of a similar texture to that of her face, but it's also stretched taut and covering a much larger area. The scarring is by far the worst on her shoulder, buttock, and thigh. Just as my heart attack redefined my life, this is the event that redefined Hanako's. If I'd seen this when I first met her, I'd have been shocked, not only at the sight, but also at the idea that something like this was survivable. But after having had time to get used to the idea, and after seeing the scars on her face, hands, and collar, my reaction is more measured. My reaction right now is not due to her scarring, but to her body. The fire happened when I was 8 years old. It was night, and we were sleeping when it started. Hanako's voice trembles. The shaking of her blouse gives away the fact that her hands are doing just the same. I curled up into a ball when the fire swept over me. My mother tried to shield me. That's the only reason I lived. Hanako's eyes begin to moisten, her voice cracking under the combined pressure of exposing herself to me like this and reliving those painful memories from so long ago. I want to say something, anything to make her feel better. I can't, though. I feel completely useless when faced with a situation like this. She's forcing herself to come so close, yet it's at times like this that I feel most distant to her. I'm sorry for making you see this. There's no point in denying the obvious. I think what I should say now and what Hanako wants me to say now is the truth, what I genuinely honestly believe. It doesn't matter. You're a wonderful person, Hanako. Your body doesn't change that. She looks at me for a long time, her breathing uneven as she tries to remain steady amidst the emotions we're both feeling. It feels like she's looking at me more than looking at me. It feels less like she's looking at me than looking through me. I slowly walk towards her and gently place my hands on her shoulders as she lets go of her blouse. She grasps a little, not in fright, but in simple startlement. Being so close to her causes my mind to become a jumble of feelings. The scarring on her shoulder, plain to see and leather-like to the touch, conflicts strangely with her otherwise soft skin and silky dark hair. Hanako is a girl, with all that entails. She's taller than usual for a woman, but still has curves in all the right places. The nape of her neck just visible thanks to her hair slung over her shoulder is alluring. We ain't gotta do that. We ain't gotta do that. I know I'm not that... I know that I'm not pretty like Lily. I just want you to see me. The real me. I've already seen the real you, though. You didn't need to take off your clothes for that. Oh, okay. I guess we just hear them. Her lips are open just a little. She lets out a sharp breath as, without thinking, I breathlessly lean forward and press my lips to hers. The kiss only lasts for a fleeting moment before our faces part, our breathing quick and nervous. The feeling of Hanako's mouth lingers, and her eyes remain locked on mine. Is this just going that way? Do I need to read this? Please don't make me do it. It makes me feel weird. Trembling a little myself, I remove my tie and begin undoing the buttons of my shirt. Don't do this. This is not the time for this. Y'all can't just be like, hey, let's have a deep conversation and talk about, you know, how our lives fucking blow, and then be like, let's fuck. That's not the appropriate course of actions. That's not what you're supposed to do. On the one hand, I'm thankful for that. I've always been somewhat self-conscious of my body, but my scarring has made that quite a lot worse. On the other though, this atmosphere feels very strange. Yeah, I wonder why. My shirt falls to the floor in a heap, as untidy and crumpled as Hanako's blouse and skirt. Hanako's entire body visibly flinches at the sound of the zipper on my trousers being pulled down. Yeah, me too. I'm scared. I'm scared. Stop. Put the pee-pee away. My trousers. Why do you keep saying trousers? It makes it weirder. Join my shirt on Hanako's floor next to the bed, and as do my sakis in short measure. Oh, you take your socks off? I hesitate before taking off my boxers and end up leaving them on. She ain't taked hers off. They represent one last hurdle I don't think I can overcome quite yet. Sheer embarrassment stops me, along with not wanting Hanako getting even more worked up. My unease about the situation has also left me needing my own stimulation? What? Does he so have ED? Hanako. She gives a nod without so much as glancing at me and makes her way to the bed as I do. She walks as if her legs were wooden sticks. Can I get a visual on that? Is that like... I hope that that noise properly indicates what I was trying to portray, because I'm not putting a visual. As I do, she walks as if her legs were wooden sticks. I'd find it amusing if I weren't doing exactly the same thing. I don't like this, it feels so weird. We take the initiative. Turning around and sitting on the side of the bed, I look at her face to invite her to take a seat either next to me or in front of me, but end up awkwardly looking down to stop myself from staring at her body. Well, you got over that quick. Look at your face. You're like, hell yeah, titty. Boy. I hate you. Stop. Nevertheless, she takes her cue and reluctantly sits between my legs. As she does, a rush of sensation hits me all at once. I don't like this, I feel weird. Why am I such a pussy boy when it comes to these scenes? You would think that in all of my years of being alive, I would become numb to this. But never. It's always weird and I'm always like, why is this happening? It didn't have to do like this. I don't want to read this. He's just being weird. He's just saying weird stuff. I'm always astounded and amazed at people's ability to, like, write things that aren't just being like PP and vagine. I would just like to point out that, the window still open. Just somebody gonna be peeping in. See y'all sinning. They keep talking about this thing with the scars, and it reminds me of like this scene from a scary movie, which, okay, listen. It's not as bad as it sounds. I don't remember what the movie was called. I think it was called like, it was like one word, and it was like despair or something. Anyway, it has Jasper from Twilight in it, and there's like another guy who's like an artist, and he talks to this girl who has like a big old birthmark, and he's like, basically he's just like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I thought that like his little speech was cute. I mean, after he makes that, he goes and just does horrible, terrible things, and it really negates the message of what he said. But that if you ignore the whole rest of that movie and only focus on that one quote I can't remember, it's very cute. I really also appreciate that they actually tried to make the female wet before inserting the PP. I don't, however, appreciate that we are not taking the stockings off, because if you come on them, that's gonna suck. That's just mesh. It's like hard as hell to clean. Yeah, she's scared. What'd you think was gonna happen? Amazing. Listen, y'all. Listen. He put on the condom. I know, it's amazing. We're all impressed. That's insanity. Everyone give Hisao a round of applause for using a condom like a smart, sexually intelligent individual. I could not be prouder of him right now. I don't like it that she looks like she's crying. Stop. Please, stop. Take the pee-pee out. She doesn't like it. Are we done here? That's so ominous. And then, after a couple seconds, it ends. Credits. They died. Should I start reading it now? Or am I gonna see more pee-pee? The sound of Hanako's breathing in my own rings in my ears, almost painfully loudly. Hanako holds an arm over her face, her mouth open and gulping in air. As I hold myself over her, suddenly my arms almost give way and my vision distorts, as if someone's grabbed it and pulled sideways. Your vision? I let myself fall sideways onto the bed beside the panting Hanako for fear of falling onto her instead. We both lie beside each other naked and pressed against one another in order to fit on a bed made for a single person. My eyes try to focus on the ceiling, to not much success. Pulling a blanket over us to stave off the cold is all I can do. The only sound in the room is that of our breathing. The sweat that had accumulated on the body feels uncomfortable. We're both physically and emotionally exhausted and a complete mess all over. And now I'm gonna die. My vision slowly begins to return to normal and I continue to stare at the ceiling, but my limbs still feel like jelly. I try to concentrate on my chest and find its beat irregular and mildly painful. That's what you get, sinner. This is a dangerous time. I have to think this through and not panic lest I make my situation any worse. With a huge effort, I take control of my erratic Freudian slip there, erotic. Forcing myself to make long, deep breaths, I count half a dozen before I start to feel physically calm again, and press my hand to my chest to assure myself. My heart beats back to normal. I'm okay. Doll. I love the after part. The after part is the best. Look at the little big face. She's just like, please give me a cuddle. Cuddle, if you don't mind, sir. Just a morsel of a cuddle. I turn my face towards Hanako, who's already looking at me. Her expression looks pretty dazed, but underneath that, there's definitely a look of concern. She's realized what happened. Yeah, I mean, why are you always so surprised whenever she realizes that you're sitting there breathing, like, erratically and then, like, clutching your chest? I'm okay. Everything's back to normal. I find myself barely able to get the words out between breaths. I don't think sex would tire a normal body out this much. It does. So I have no doubt my condition's at least partially at fault. Why did my body have to do this right now? I wonder. All thoughts of my heart, though, are pushed aside as I see the wide smile forming on Hanako's face. Aw, little baby. As always, I smile back without another thought. Hanako's smile has always been infectious in its almost childlike sweetness and earnesty. Almost something that sets her apart from anyone else I know. Right now, we don't need words. Everything we want to communicate to each other we can share just fine without them. And then I fell asleep. Oh, we just done. We just done. Okay. Meh. So I'm gonna leave it here, hypothetically. It depends on how long the next one. I might just tack the end of the next one onto this one if it's short enough. But we will see. In case that doesn't happen, We fucked. That's the synopsis. Nothing else happened in this episode. We're gonna ignore all the character development and all the talk of our past and the getting close, you know, both literally, metaphysically, the figuratively, all that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Pee-pee time. So, I might see you in just a second, or I will see you in the next video.